Hello and welcome to the Guardian Football Weekly. Limbs of the season at the Emirates as 16-year-old Max Dowman becomes the Premier League's youngest ever scorer to help Arsenal over the line against Everton before Man City drop more points at West Ham thanks to the face of Konstantinos Mavrapanos. Is this the night Arsenal won the title? Part 47, is it? At the bottom, Spurs, checks notes, show promise under Igor Tudor. Richarlison netting a last-minute equaliser against Liverpool, proving the old adage that the fifth time's a charm. Chelsea lose after Paul Tierney infiltrates their pre-match huddle. PGMO's response to Liam Rosenior's complaints will be interesting. Man United cement third place with victory over Aston Villa as Bruno Fernandes closes in on a record amount of assists in a single season. We have a hotel boycott, more England managers in the wild, plus your questions, and that's today's Guardian Football Weekly. So Max and Barry are breaking America as we speak. Like a couple of RADA-trained actors who have spent just a little too long in a soap opera, we expect them to return to the pod very soon. Perhaps recast with new actors, but same characters. We'll wait and see. On the panel this morning, Jonathan Wilson, live from a hotel in Liverpool, I'm assuming?
In Liverpool, yes. Yeah, morning. How are you doing?
All good, thank you. We're very impressed with your very healthy choice of option at the breakfast buffet today.
Well, you've got to look after yourself when you get to my age. There's no half measures here. I was in Leeds yesterday and I had a fry up in Leeds. I was in a hotel in Leeds. They were advertising they'd won breakfast of the year, but I mean they hadn't won it since the early '60s if they have won it ever. Because it was the most old-fashioned breakfast I've ever seen.
They've won it at some point, and I think that's all right. It can't be false advertising then. Lucy Ward, I mean you're Leeds through and through, obviously. Good breakfast there.
Yeah, well. I'm in Leeds, and fry up is about right for Leeds, I think.
Excellent stuff. And Dan Bardell, good morning. How are you this morning?
Very well. Won no awards and had no breakfast. So, yeah, good start.
Oh, good. Okay, running on empty. I don't know who's more high performance. We'll wait and see. Let's start at the Emirates then. Arsenal 2, Everton 0. And I think we just got to start at the end, haven't we? This moment for Max Dowman as Everton were pushing for an equaliser. Jordan Pickford was up. Max Dowman taking the ball after it was half cleared. A header down, a pitch-long dribble, and we all knew what was happening here. I think that's what made this moment absolutely iconic in the Premier League. And Lucy, I'm going to come to you first. I know you speak a lot about these young players, and he's been hyped a lot, hasn't he? But he's delivering consistently. And I think it's very telling that Mikel Arteta turned to him with Arsenal struggling to break this Everton team down.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, Robyn, because Mikel Arteta's not really been known as a playing the kids sort of manager. It actually takes a really brave manager to just put them in. And I think what happened was when he had to put Nwaneri and Miles Lewis-Skelly in last season or the season before because he had that many injuries, and then he was like, pleasantly surprised by the performance, and they ended up in the team. Now, when they got players back, Nwaneri didn't get in, gone out on loan. So I think that's taught him a little bit about, well, actually, if I see something on the training ground that is good, then they replicate it simply because they don't really have that sort of anxiety around getting the 3 points. He will recognise that Dowman, that obviously they're desperate to win the title and it gets sort of like a little bit nervy at the end. But in terms of him, he's thinking about himself. He's thinking about, playing football, enjoying it. And I was just saying before, I was sat on the sofa with my mum watching it, and I'm no Arsenal fan. I don't really have that any sort of allegiance. However, when he took that touch out and away, we were both like, go on, and then sort of felt the joy. And I was really glad that I don't hate Arsenal, that I could share the joy of that last-minute second goal, because I think that it must be a shame if you're watching that thinking, oh, God, they've won. Do you know what I mean? But in terms of a young player, I just think that you've just got to be a little bit careful because, that might be the best thing he ever does in his career. I hope not. I hope it's just the start, but you just never know with some players. But he seems to have his feet on the ground, and I'm sure everybody's treating his parents well.
Yes, absolutely. 16 years and 73 days old. I mean, it's pretty incredible. And he came on. He also, didn't quite provide the assist for the first goal against Everton, but he put in a really good cross. Jordan Pickford made a bit of a mistake, and then Gyökeres had a tap in. But just back to that goal, Dan. to be in the stadium, to be an Arsenal fan, witnessing that moment, it wasn't bundled in by Dowman. We weren't quite sure who got the last touch. Just the fact that, as I said, you could see what was happening and what was going to happen. I mean, those are the moments, aren't they, that you will just savour as a football fan, and just the incredible scenes after that.
Yeah, so I was watching the Chelsea-Newcastle game, but keeping an eye on what was going on in the other games, and just watching on social media what was unfolding. And basically my entire timeline was Max Dowman this, Max Dowman that. So at the end of the game, obviously watched the highlights and saw what had happened. And it's it's a great moment anyway, because of his age. He'll be an Arsenal fan as well. But in the context of the game and in the context of the title race as well, like that game had almost got away from them. Like, him coming on was the catalyst to them getting what is a massive 3 points, especially when you look at what went to go on to happen afterwards in the Man City game as well. It will become it could become a really, really iconic Premier League moment. I saw someone, I can't remember who it was, comparing it to Sergio Aguero. I don't think I'd go that far. But look, it's a massive moment. Everton had gone there and almost done the perfect job on Arsenal, and had chances themselves as well. But Dowman coming on, and he's only just 16 as well. It's not like he's about to turn 17. Like, he's only just 16 years old, and we all heard about him in the summer. Arsenal fans would have known about him for longer. But Lucy's right. Like, this might be like the best thing that ever happened to him. It might not ever get better than this. But watching him, I think it probably will. I think this is just the beginning.
I enjoyed Johnny Lou's post on Blue Sky saying the UK #1 single when Max Dowman was born was some streaming nonsense nobody cares about because it's long after people stopped giving a toss about the charts. That's how young Max Dowman is. Yeah, we always ask about that. And I was going to ask, what were you guys doing at 16? But I did this with Lucy a couple of weeks ago, and we did an FA Cup game together, and the answer wasn't what I wanted, because you were already playing, weren't you? 2 years into your career, weren't you already?
Well, actually, 4 years into I first played in a women's team when I was 12, and the next eldest was 21. So that's how women's football has changed, and football has changed over the years. So yeah, I was an experienced player by 16.
Yeah. So where have you been, Max? I think that's the question, isn't it? I mean, Jonathan, as we mentioned, Everton did have their chances, didn't they? And it's kind of maybe a bit outcome biasy, isn't it? But this feels very, very significant for Arsenal. Everton hit the post. They had that weird sort of scorpion block from Calafiori. As Dan said, it nearly did a job on them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably the equivalent of that game. It was much earlier in the season, but it was late January last year. There's the afternoon when Liverpool went to Brentford, and it was goalless after 90 minutes, and then Darwin Nunez scored twice in injury time. And I was at Arsenal for that game. They played that day. They played Villa in the 5:30 kickoff, and you could just feel a kickoff around the Emirates. This sense of sort of everybody kind of going, they've done that. Arsenal went 2-0 up, and then they conceded twice to Villa. And so rather than, I think Arsenal would have pulled within 2 had they won and Liverpool been held, but then the gap's 6 and Liverpool had a game in hand. And that felt like the day that the title race was decided last season. And I think we might look back on Saturday and say that was the equivalent this season. I mean, a 9-point gap isn't... I mean, City have a game in hand if they win that at 6. If City then beat Arsenal, it's about a month's time, isn't the game at the Etihad? Then it's 3. I don't think you could say Arsenal playing well enough at the minute that they will definitely win the other 6 games. I mean, the last 5 games they haven't really played particularly well. They've won 3 of them by a single goal. So you say Everton had their chances, and that could easily finish 0-0. The other game was the Leverkusen game where they didn't play particularly well. So I don't think Arsenal are playing fantastically. But this season, having not done this the previous 3 seasons, they are managing to get the wins, and City are not. And Guardiola seemed slightly baffled by that on Saturday night. So it felt like a decisive shift on Saturday night.
It did, and that's because, later on in the 8:00 kickoff, it finished West Ham United 1, Manchester City 1. So more drop point for Manchester City. And you could see that actually, I mean, this was interesting. I think Erling Haaland was watching, as you alluded to it, Jonathan. I mean, it might have taken might have just put a dent in their mood after it seemed like Erling Haaland was watching the end of the Arsenal game, and then they had to go. So that's all puts paid to... we don't look at the table, we don't look at what other teams are doing. That's absolute nonsense, isn't it? But let's talk about this game. I mean, it's been a kind of theme of the season, hasn't it? City, they take the lead. There was a big debate on TNT. I know your colleague Darren Fletcher, Lucy, was like, Bernardo Silva definitely meant that little dink to the back post, and immediately shot down by Ali McCoist and Joe Cole, saying, "No, he didn't." and then it looked like he was saying to Phil Foden on the bench that he did mean it, and then he kind of, did that look that meant, actually, I didn't mean it. So that's how they took the lead. And then, a very weird sort of equaliser where a kind of rare error from Donnarumma. You still expect City to go again after that, but they just didn't, and that's kind of been a theme of the season.
Yeah, do you know, Bernardo Silva didn't mean to do that, because you can see him look to try and clip it onto Haaland's head. You only need to see where his eyes were looking. And I think he's a little bit of a joker as well, Bernardo Silva, so he was sort of telling the younger ones that, of course, he meant it. But it looked like one of those games where they could have been there all night, Man City, and they wouldn't have scored again, because some of the blocks that West Ham were making, because obviously they've got a lot to fight for, but they just lack a little bit of creativity and urgency in the final third. City, that they control games, but they're dropping points against teams that will quite obviously defend deeper, protect, and have good set pieces. But Donnarumma, I saw a tweet from a City fan, because quite a lot of City fans weren't happy with Donnarumma in the first place, but it says, it's for all the Donnarumma haters, it's taken until March before you go, see, I told you. So that tells you how good he's been up until this point, and I take into account the European game in against Madrid in midweek, and it just shows you can be absolutely perfect as a goalkeeper and then make a couple of mistakes in key games, and all of a sudden it's like, Donnarumma, what's happening? But it's not anything to do with the goalkeeper. This is that they haven't had those quick vertical passes up the pitch. That West Ham were organised. They fought City wide, and they just became predictable.
And yeah, Dan, I mean, we've seen this before, haven't we? It's been pretty bizarre watching City. We're so used to them. As I said before, in previous seasons, they'd have a setback like that, but you'd expect them to, win, especially at West Ham, where they have an incredible record, sort of 3-4-1.
Yeah, I think Pep said as much after the game as well. West Ham have had one shot in that game, I believe, and it's obviously turned into the critical moment in the game that was the goal. I think because of the way Arsenal play, which I don't personally have a problem with, and the way they're kind of looking like they might win the league at the moment, I think City's problems and inconsistencies have almost got lost because all the noise is around Arsenal. Like, this kind of result that they've had at the weekend has been commonplace pretty much all season, and certainly there was long periods last season where this kind of result was happening. I think everyone's just expected City to go on this winning run and really put this big pressure on Arsenal that really tests Arsenal's mental side. But there's quite a big distance between them at the moment. I know there's that game in hand, and if Manchester City can win that game in hand and then manage to beat Arsenal as well, like, that really will put the frighteners on Arsenal. Premier League in general, and particularly Man City at this moment in time, no one can really be trusted to get that big result when they need to. And West Ham, credit to them, look, they were so resolute. They stayed in the game for so long. Everyone just assumed City were gonna score. But actually, they're a really useful outfit at the moment. Before the game, if you'd have asked me to predict a score, I probably would have gone for a draw, because they're showing signs of life under Nuno, and I actually think they'll probably end up staying up. In the end, he's a fantastic manager. If you look at what he's done at Forest, what he did at Wolves as well, probably forget the Tottenham period. But everyone had West Ham dead and buried, so that there's been signs of life there under Nuno. It's a difficult opponent, but as Pep said, that's a game they just win a few years ago, and at the moment and all through the season, they're not doing that when they need to.
Yeah, I think we definitely should give West Ham a lot of credit, shouldn't we? And the work that Nuno has done, because they did look dead and buried. He shored up their defence. I just wonder, sort of tactically, or is it something deeper than that, Jonathan? In terms of, for City, did Pep Guardiola get this wrong, or was it just missed chances? Semenyo had quite a good one, didn't he? And Mark Gay spooned one over the bar late on.
Well, they had 24 chances to 1. I mean, you can't really say. And you had 24 chances to 1, and you got Erling Haaland in your team, and somehow you haven't won it. I mean, it's one of those games that doesn't make sense. But City have had a few of those this season, and I mean, the drop off in the second half for City. I know that the equaliser was before half time on Saturday, but if games finished at half time, City would have 68 points. If they started at half time, they'd have 42 this season. As it is, they have 61. So, is that a lack of fitness? Is that what's something serious is happening there? And I think that's why they didn't, having got to half-time level, they didn't quite have that extra energy or that extra drive, whatever, to get that winner. And I thought it was really telling what Guardiola said afterwards. In previous seasons, we won games like this, and this season we're not, and I don't really get it. And I think that is it. If you said to any manager before a game, you'll have 24 chances, the opposition will have one, would you take it? In what circumstances would you not accept that? So I think you'd say it's a one-off, but it keeps happening. And I don't know if it's something to do with the change in City's style this season. I mean, they've been weirdly inconsistent. They were so good at Newcastle in the Cup. And then, I don't know, I always thought the Real Madrid game, did Guardiola underthink that? Is this the first example of Guardiola underthinking a game? That he just sort of thought, oh, look, we're great. And he looked at that Real Madrid team without 4 or 5 key players and played an incredibly aggressive attacking midfield and then got absolutely turned over. And has that affected confidence? I don't know, but they're just not... The thing is, they've gone from being this sort of absolutely extraordinary, unbeatable team to just being a normal, good team. And I think... the point you were making about or Dan was making about them not being able to put together winning runs. They have had a couple of those runs. They had an 8-game run in November, December. They had 6 games in February. And you start thinking, oh yeah, this is it. But it's not that. They haven't got that same control, and therefore they're never quite as secure. And therefore games like the West Ham game on Saturday happen.
Any theories on this sort of second half slump?
I just think there's not maybe that fear factor that teams had of Man City in bygone years right now. I think last season, I know they were rebuilding post-January, but I think there was a general malaise, and I think that kind of took away something psychologically from the other opponents, that they're not this infallible beast anymore. You can get at them. They can open up. They'll give you chances. And look, West Ham didn't have any chances other than the goal we scored as goal they scored, as we've said a couple of times. But I think something got lost within Manchester City last season, and then as this season's gone on as well, I think they referenced that Haaland scored 4 in his last 18. He's not
That's
doing it.
extraordinary for him, isn't it?
Yeah, he's not necessarily getting loads of service, but again, has that fear factor now gone with him? Have teams learned how to nullify him? West Ham certainly, I would say, nullified him at the weekend. So I think there's kind of that mental edge with Man City that teams would have feared them. I kind of feel like that's gone. I don't think that hasn't answered the question, because I don't think that's a second half specific thing. But it's a theory anyway.
But it is. So I mean, it is right. You're right, Dan, because it's about the opposition's attitude to, rather than, well, shall we keep it down to 1 or 2? It's now, well, actually, we could nick one if we can just manage this first half, if we can just grab opportunities when we can and then defend well. They just defend well and deny that space in behind. Then they become really predictable. Everything's in front of the opposition, and then they've just got to find like a little way in, which against teams like West Ham, who are obviously clinging on to a 1-1 draw at that particular point. But yeah, I think that they're not inevitable anymore, and that helps the opposition.
Before we move on, we must have a word for Mavrapanos, who scored the header, but also took one. I mean, he's probably still picking the ball out of his face. It's an extraordinary picture that someone managed to capture when Haaland's rocket of a shot basically sort of became one with Mavrapanos' face. It literally disappeared into the ball. I mean, absolutely extraordinary. I mean, it hurts. Shouldn't have carried
Robyn.
On.
Yeah,
you don't say.
I've had that, and that is, your head feels about like 300 times as big, and he looked like he was like, hang on a minute, are all my features still here? But yeah, crazy. Especially not in front of Haaland's shot. My word.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. No, I would be calling for an ambulance, my mother, and anyone else.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, fair play to Konstantinos Mavrapanos, and yeah, hope he's feeling okay today. That'll do for part 1. In part 2, we'll do Liverpool Spurs and the race for top 4. Welcome back to the Guardian Football Weekly. Liverpool 1, Spurs 1. So yes, Spurs stopping the rot. They still remain the only team in the Premier League without a win in 2026, but a precious point. Could have been more. Igor Tudor challenged his team to cry or fight, Jonathan. And they chose the latter, or a bit of the former.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know if Liverpool sort of thought when they went ahead that was it, that they'd won it. But Liverpool was so sloppy, so lacking in urgency. And you almost sort of saw the confidence creeping back into Tottenham. Richarlison, I thought, had a really good game. He missed a couple of chances, but kept going and eventually got his reward. I thought that midfield with Sarr and Archie Gray were both really good. But even Vicario, who I think was at fault with the Liverpool goal, it's a really good save he then makes 10 minutes later from Cody Gakpo. So there was a sort of element of redemption there. And look, yeah, they've equalised in the last minute, having lost 6 games in a row. I'm sure they're delighted with the point. But I do wonder if they've woken up this morning thinking, actually, we could have won that. The Liverpool were awful, and that was a real opportunity. But, yeah, when you've lost 6 in a row, getting anything on the board, particularly with Forest to come next Sunday, which is obviously a huge game, I'm sure they'll be happy enough.
Jim asked us, Spurs a late equaliser give a hint at some newly discovered resilience, or is it more to do with Liverpool's inability to prevent goals going in at the end of games? And Mixie on Blue Sky, is the dissatisfaction of many Liverpool fans with Arne Slot valid, or are we overreacting? Any thoughts on that, Dan?
Well, they had a new manager at the start of the game, didn't they? Because Igor Tudor spotted another bold man and went up to him and sort of spoke to him like he was Arne Slot. So there was a temporary change of the guard for Liverpool pre-game.
Yeah, sorry, can I just say on that? I think this has been totally misinterpreted. That bloke is Alan Dixon, who's Daniel Levy's brother-in-law, who's the team manager at Tottenham. There's no way Igor Tudor doesn't know who he is.
Look, I've got to admit, I didn't know that. That just shows you the dangers of social media. I fell into a trap there, seeing that and just thinking it was some random man, and that Tudor's gone up to him and thought he was Slot.
I mean,
how he got the job there? How did he get the job there, Jonathan? I have no idea. That's another discussion. How on earth?
I think he's just the best qualified. Yeah, best qualified for the job. Great interview. Yeah, and just complete coincidence that he happens to be related to Daniel Levy.
I thought this game was outrageous because the whole country is, well, not the whole country, but a lot of the country's on like a little bit of a hate watch. Like Spurs have been absolute appointment viewing here, and then they put up a performance with some fight and some guile. They kind of mix and match their front players every single week. But I think for the rest of the season that they've got to go with the front players that played in that game, because they genuinely look dangerous. And actually, a bit like the way I spoke about Manchester City earlier, as good a team as Liverpool are and as good a team as they've been, they'll give you openings and they'll give you chances as well. So in a way, away from home, like nobody expecting Spurs to do anything, I think it suited them. But Liverpool have got that in their locker this season as well, haven't they? Every time you think they might have got it right, they trip up and put in a really, really poor result. Tottenham kind of changed as well from playing out from the back and went a bit more direct, and that is the way to hurt Liverpool. And as Jonathan said, Richarlison had so many chances. But for the rest of the season now, that's got to be a catalyst for Spurs. It's kind of, has it given them a platform for next week against Forest in what's a huge game? I guess it depends what happens in the Champions League. If they get decimated again, obviously confidence will take a downturn. But I thought there was signs of life there, and that's probably given Tudor the job for the season as well there.
Well, for now at least, I think, yeah, as you mentioned, the Forest game. I think if they kind of revert to type on that, I'm not certain. Although I think we were all pretty stunned that he was still there ahead of this one. But yes, certainly signs of life. And I mean, in terms of Liverpool, I guess, Lucy, it's kind of mirroring City a little bit, isn't it? A lot of changes in the summer, new players to bed in, but they just look so shaky defensively. And the likes of sort of Van Dijk, who was sort of this immovable object, isn't so anymore.
It was interesting on commentary. Jamie Carragher said that they were sleepwalking, which is what Jonathan said. Then it looked like they just thought, "Oh, just get a goal and we'll win, or we'll score two." To me, it just looks like they are lacking in intensity in everything that they do. And I was sort of reading on social media and somebody talking about that the training is not high enough level. How they know that, I've no idea. But obviously Klopp was just over the top with training, and I think they're sort of suggesting that the training is probably not as high as that, but not as high as it should be. That they're not. It's a good squad. They're just not playing very well. But I just think I have to say that Liverpool's performance this season deserves a little, and Salah's in particular deserves a bit of context and explanations. Right, you cannot underestimate the loss of Jota. And I know we're in March, but I look at Salah and he looks like a person to me that's just gone, what am I doing? I've just lost someone. I can't get my head around how I've lost someone. He's not here anymore. I'm still going in the same place. I've earned all the money. I've won everything. What am I doing? And that is like a drop of that few percent, as well as he's getting a little bit older. Salah has just affected him. Now you cannot. I think that Kelleher was talking about it. He was interviewed, wasn't he? I don't know whether it was last week, and he was basically saying, "I don't know how they're all functioning going into the training ground. It's bad enough me here, where I'm in a different place and different environment. But I really can't. You cannot underestimate while losing someone the same age as you in that environment where they're so close. And I think it's affected different players, particularly Salah, in a really obviously understandably strong way.
No, you're absolutely right. And you can't just say, oh, it's March, it's time to stop grieving. It doesn't work like that, does it? And I think we do forget that these players, they don't just see each other on a Saturday or a Sunday, do they? They see each other every single day, and probably over the close season. If they're close friends, they're friends with their family. I'm sure they're friends with his partner, know his kids. So I think, you're absolutely right. It's so far reaching. And we should say that Liverpool's still very much in the mix for the top 5 or top 4. They're still 5th, 49 points. The goal that they scored was another Dominic Szoboszlai free kick, and he's scored 4 now direct from free kicks this season. If he gets one more, he'll equal Perez and David Beckham's record for 5 in a single season. This one wasn't his best, and I think most people would say that Vicario should have done better. I'm just a bit disappointed, Jonathan, that Tudor didn't substitute him after this and brought Kinksky on, because I think that would have been magnificent. Where do you think
keepers on, but she had Brandon Austin on the bench as well, so
give him a go.
It showed how bad Spurs' problems are with injuries. That they had 7 players on the bench, of whom, I'll be honest, I only heard of 4 of them. There's 3 19-year-olds who never played before, 2 goalkeepers plus Colomwani and Xavi Simons.
That's definitely needs to be flagged, doesn't it? The squad that Spurs have, they're absolutely down to the bare bones, aren't they? Really up against it. So really not a bad, not a bad result at all. And we should talk about another teenager, Dan Rio Ingamoa, who again, a bit like Dowman, just looks just full of confidence, and actually he was given his first starts in the Premier League, and possibly looked the liveliest from a Liverpool perspective.
Yeah, I think Liverpool fans, from what I've read and seen, wanted to see more of this player. He obviously at the start of the season had some important moments. Won a massive game at Newcastle. I think it was late on, and you thought maybe you'd start to see a little bit more from him, but he almost got lost a little bit because Liverpool were mixing it up, trying to find the best combination. They had Isak and Ekitike. They were trying to basically fit everyone in at the start of the season. Now things have settled, and they're obviously going in 2 competitions at the moment in terms of the Champions League games and the Premier League games being quite tight. If they can get themselves back into the tie midweek, he'll play more because they'll have more games. There will be that element of rotation, and he looks ready. He's a very, very technically gifted player. I think maybe the end product might be something that needs working on. I've heard that alluded to, but just to kind of replaces Diaz a little bit, that just direct silky runner. They've maybe missed that. He's obviously departed in the summer as well. They've had that complete change of the front 3. I think he maybe offers something in that Liverpool forward line that not anyone else there, the more senior players, have got. So if they can stay in the Champions League, I think you will see more of him.
To Old Trafford then, Manchester United 3, Aston Villa 1. So Manchester United won all 5 home games in the Premier League under Michael Carrick. The clamour for him to get the job permanently continues. This is quite a fun game. Lucy, Manchester United, is this a bounce or is it more than that? Are we falling into the trap?
It probably both. I mean, to be fair, I mean, how he's changed it around, and he's changed it around by doing sort of common sense things, which, you know, sort of anybody with any sort of ounce of football knowledge will realise that what Amorim was doing wasn't working. However, it's easiest to sit on the sideline doing it when you stood on the touchline like Carrick is. I just think that it just shows you that the combination of things behind the scenes. Obviously, he's quite a gentle bloke who's quite positive with the group, putting round pegs in round holes. Amazingly works very well in football. And I go back to Spurs being the same. I sort of played like a 4-4-2 and you know, worked hard, didn't play back three, try and play out for the back. Well, who'd have thought that would make it difficult for a team like Liverpool to. So, you know, all that is getting the results from it. Then there's obviously going to be he's not going to be perfect because of how they were in the start of the season. He isn't going to be perfect now. He's not going to be. So it just depends on where Man United want to go now, because the thing is, if he finishes with a flourish like he is, and they get in the Champions League, which it looks like they are doing, and it shows the head-to-head battles with the likes of Villa helps, then if they choose someone else, he's got to come in and hit the ground running, and then you're back to the, you know, Amorim coming in. They just got to choose well. Like, recruitment is the be-all and end-all of football.
Amorim's decisions look more and more ludicrous by the week. Jonathan, I mean, Bruno Fernandes, he's a quality player. As we mentioned, he's now on 16 assists for the season. I mean, he's set to possibly break the record. Kevin De Bruyne's 20 for a Premier League season. Great assist for Cunha's goal. It was a great finish. Sesko firing. You know, Casemiro as well. There've been calls for him to stay now after he scored again. Again, are we falling into that trap? I've seen this tale before. But it's all looking very good. Do you feel like he might have a bit more substance than or longevity, let's say, from the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer era, which actually was quite good for a while? I think people forget that.
Yeah, I think Solskjaer, was it 14 wins and 3 draws in the first 18 games? So, yeah, that's actually pretty similar to what Carrick's done. I mean, there was obviously within that the defeat was the home defeat to PSG, and then they went to Paris and won, and went through in away goals. And Carrick just hasn't had that. But you know, Carrick's managing a team who aren't playing a lot of football. They're going to be fresher than every team they play this season, and I think you've got to take that into account. It's really hard to judge whether he's any good or not. And I think the only way you can't even really assess it from matches or results. You've got to sort of have a feel for what's happening on the training ground, have a feel for you know, our players. Are players just happy because suddenly they're allowed to play in the positions where they're at their best, and they haven't got this sort of bloke squeezing them into this straitjacket if it doesn't suit them. But I think the thing I even Bruno Fernandes playing deep in midfield, I could sort of understand it because of the recruitment in the summer, bringing in the 3 forwards, which didn't really make much sense. And the only way to sort of accommodate them in that system was to bring Bruno deeper. But the thing I just did not understand was trying to play Amad Diallo at wing-back. Because I saw a lot of Amad Diallo at Sunderland. He's a really technically good footballer. He's much stronger than he looks like he's going to be because he's tiny. But if you ask him to defend the back post when the ball's on the other flank, and teams are knocking it to the back post, a 4'2" bloke cannot defend against a 6' bloke, and that's what you're asking him to do. And again, United got done by that, by teams lifting it to the back post. So that just seemed totally baffling to me, and I sort of feel quite defensive towards Amad because he was so good for Sunderland. But yeah, he's now playing well, playing as a forward, not as a wing back. So yeah, I don't know what Amad was doing, and that's I guess the recruitment didn't deliver him what he needed, which was a holding player and somebody who could play right wing back. He didn't get that, and therefore it was more square pegs and round holes. But the sense of release, I mean, I think if the season had started when Carrick took over, United would be top of the league. I think they've taken 22 points, in Arsenal 21 in that time. And you sort of think if Amram had picked up 2 more wins, if 2 of their defeats had been wins, United in the title picture, then they probably are, because Arsenal aren't playing that well. So they've kind of blown a title opportunity by just pissing away the first half of the season.
Yeah, I mean, on Carrick, I mean, he has managed, he managed Middlesbrough, and he did pretty well there, didn't he? I know it kind of went sour at the end. And I know he obviously has a huge amount of respect for Sir Alex Ferguson, and he talks about him a lot, but he's not doesn't give them this sort of deference that, and so, I don't know, Solskjaer kind of came across as a bit of a sycophant, didn't he? And it was a bit of a joke how, I've got to ask Sir Alex first. And
wouldn't park
in
his parking place.
Exactly, yeah. It's kind of mad, isn't it? It's almost like, no, I'm not really the manager, it's still him. So I just feel like Carrick has got a little bit more distance. Would that be fair to say, Lucy? Like, it's not quite so kind of like a joke that it's still him, he's a sort of puppet.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Carrick is a star. He's had his own career, hasn't he? He's not just been brought in from absolutely nowhere. And I know Solskjaer did as well, and he obviously is a good coach. But I just think that sort of standalone Middlesbrough experience will have taught him a lot, because, as usual, for any job, it mostly sort of ends sour, doesn't it? And the Middlesbrough fans weren't happy with the football that he was playing, or his reaction to how they played at certain points. But it just seems to have that sort of measured. You need to be quite measured, and you need to, if you are going to blow your top, that people, don't need to see that emotion. And you also need to be authentic. There's a couple of others managers or at least one manager in the top 5 or 6 who could learn from, like, being authentic and being yourself, and you're not having to say stuff to be performative. But I think he has that, and the most important thing is that the players buy into it. That is key, because if you don't get the players to buy into it, and they obviously weren't buying into what Amorim did, so I think he's put himself in a really good position.
From the Villa perspective, Dan, it's been a really tough run, hasn't it? 3 wins in 12 now in the Premier League. Somehow you're still 4th, though, which is a positive, obviously. A lot's been made of the midfield. The absences are big. Is it as simple as that, do you feel?
I mean, how we are still 4th, I have absolutely no idea.
It's because you did so well, Dan. You did so well in that phase,
Yeah, I think that may be, and I'm probably guilty of this as well, it maybe created a bit of an unrealistic expectation of where this Villa squad is at. And look, Unai Emery's a genius, and he's improved every single player at that football club. But we're coming up short right now, and we don't have the strength and depth. And the midfield's been absolutely decimated. Obviously, John McGinn's coming back into things now, which is huge for us. And I'd have left him on at 50%, to be honest, at the expense of bringing Leon Bailey on at 100%, because a 50% John McGinn at the moment is better than 100% Leon Bailey. But Tielemans and Kamara in particular, like, Kamara makes everyone around him better. Onana played next to Kamara when Tielemans was injured earlier on in the season, and it looked like a good partnership. But you take Kamara away, and none of the midfielders really look like they're settled or can control the midfield. So the midfield's been decimated. The attack at the moment, I think, is probably the worst functioning attack in the league. Like, Ollie Watkins has just completely fallen off a cliff. Nothing stuck to him yesterday. I thought he was probably his worst game he's ever had in an Aston Villa shirt. So I feel sorry for Rodgers in there at the moment, because everything around him feels broken. I can't remember the last time he had a shot. He was scoring 30-yard screamers every single week. It felt like at the back end of 2025. Now, as I say, I can't remember when he's had a shot. Emery's tried to be more resolute, and that's actually made the defence worse. We're conceding goals left, right and centre now. So we've just completely gone away from everything that made us good for a variety of reasons. And for the last few weeks, people who talk about Villa a lot, and me included, will have been saying, it's okay, we're still 3rd. It's okay, we're still 4th. There's only so long you can keep saying that. This run of form now is worrying, and the squad, like it did at the start of the season, looks very, very stale. Villa have made a lot of recruitment errors at a time when you can't afford to make recruitment errors because of the constraints that they're working under with PSR. The fact that Harvey Elliott just sits on the bench when he is fit week after week, not coming on because we don't want to pay the money to buy him permanently. Like, to me, he's exactly what this attack needs. Some fresh impetus, someone young, someone who would have been full of confidence coming off the back of the under-21 Euros in the summer. Like, the fact that I'm still watching players like Buendia and Leon Bailey play, and we've got Harvey Elliott just sat there, it absolutely blows my mind. So, in conclusion, loads wrong with Villa at the moment.
But you'll win the Europa League, won't you?
I don't know. I don't think we will. I honestly don't think that we will. I still don't think that we. It's Aston Villa, though, Robyn. So that's probably the bigger thing there.
What trumps what? I mean, the Harvey Elliott situation, though, Jonathan, is mad, isn't it? It's a really sad indictment of modern football, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and I mean, maybe Dan can explain why they're so reluctant to spend the money on him, because he seems to me, if he's a good young player, you're prepared to do that deal for last summer. What have they seen in him that makes them think this is definitely the wrong player for us to buy full time? Why are they so unimpressed by him?
In one of his first games, in the midst of the run where we couldn't score a goal to save our lives, he came on against Sunderland. We played against 10 men and we got our first goal of the season, but really struggled. Sunderland should have won that game. Emery said that he was passing the ball and moving the ball too quickly. Like, I would suggest that's probably what Villa need right now. It goes against the grain of what we're doing, but to me, that's the kind of thing that Villa are absolutely missing. And from that moment, Emery just didn't fancy him. The structure of the loan deal was very, very strange, and Monchi left the club quite quickly after that deal. The last couple of transfer windows have been awful from Villa. Like, there's been very few big pieces of business that have gone well. It's actually been the players that are low maintenance that were bought in for low fees that have turned out to be the ones that have been Villa's best buys in the summer window. You know, Gasson's playing for Crystal Palace now after 6 months and spending £30 million on him. So we've made loads of mistakes, but quite simply, Unai Emery does not want to buy Harvey Elliott permanently, and the club is run by Unai Emery, rightly or wrongly, and so they won't do it.
It's just simple as that. He just doesn't fancy him, and so yeah, it's not a good situation for anyone, is it? Right, moment of the weekend, everyone. Chelsea 0, Newcastle 1. We'll get to the football in a second, but the huddle. Oh, the huddle. This was incredible. So yeah, just before the game, Chelsea have now started to huddle around the centre circle, and Paul Tierney got trapped, or he wanted to get involved. I'm not sure exactly what happened. Brad on Instagram said, should Chelsea try huddling around someone who knows how to organise a defence, which I think is lovely. Yeah, I mean, brilliant stuff. One of the strangest moments of the season, the eye contact between Paul Tierney and Cole Palmer is superb. Just sort of like in a situation that neither wants to be in. And then Liam Rosenior afterwards saying, I'm going to make it really clear. I want to protect my players. I'm respectful to the game. My players made the decision that they wanted to be around the ball, to respect the ball and show unity and leadership. Lucy, what the hell is he talking about?
It just absolutely unnecessary performative rubbish. Honestly, it's like everybody's talking about that. No one's talking about the game. No one's talking about, which probably is one of the reasons why he talked about it after. But I just think some of the results that he's had have been absolutely brilliant. Some of the way he's got them playing and at times have been brilliant. But everybody just talks about everything else. So you've got to stay under the radar. If that was me and I would been given that job where everybody probably thought that I shouldn't have had that job for whatever reason, it's probably just best to just stay calm. But I don't know whether he feels like he has to sort of project this different sort of persona. I'm not sure, but I feel a little bit for him, to be honest. But then he sort of comes out with respecting the ball, and I'm not joking. It's a free ball system, so there's loads of balls everywhere. So which ball are you respecting? Because you might not necessarily use that ball to play the whole game. That might be the one that sits on the sideline or somebody in the crowd nicks. You know, honestly,
Respectful of all balls.
Oh dear. Anyway,
does that logically mean they were respecting Paul Tierney by standing around him? It didn't feel like that, I have to say.
It did feel like they were about to break into some sort of musical number, didn't it? Yeah, that was very bizarre. And yeah, I think he said they're going to write to PGMO. I think that's going straight in the shredder, that letter. And then I would love for in every Chelsea game that the referees just come together and say, right, let's all do it. Let's all have a go in the middle of the huddle in the next games. I mean,
he looked like Tierney looked like Harry Styles at the Brits.
Exactly. No, it bizarre, but I absolutely loved
hate it. It's the
Really?
it's the worst thing I've ever seen in football.
Villa, it really wound up Villa fans, didn't they, by doing it?
It's wound me up. I hope, as long as they do that huddle, I hope they lose every game of football that they ever play. From the first team down to like the under-10s, I hope Chelsea lose every single game of football whilst that huddle is in existence. Because it's just weird, and doing it in like the centre circle as if it's some form of like marginal gain. I honestly, sometimes football just eats itself up, and that is one of the moments where I just think, what is football like? Why am I watching this? Because it's not clever. It's just self-indulgent rubbish. And Rosenior, there's no way the players have come up with that either. Cole Palmer in the dressing room saying, you know what we should do, lads? We should do a huddle in the centre circle.
They looked so awkward, didn't they?
And at half time,
so
there's no way they've come up with that. That's come from, might not have come from Rosenior himself, but that has come from within the Chelsea coaching staff. Honestly, it's the weirdest thing I've ever seen in football.
But in the days when we used to do the podcast in the studio, we would always do a huddle around a microphone. I mean, that was just standard practice. So.
And did you feel that helped?
No, I felt disconcerted by it. But you just go along with what the senior players are telling you to do.
What Blueco say, yeah, absolutely. Before we move on, we should mention the actual game. So it was a defeat for Chelsea, and the defending for the winning goal, what turned out to be, Jonathan, was laughably bad, wasn't it? Just sliced through and Gordon with a tap in.
Oh, it's dreadful. I mean, they've won one of the last 5 in the Premier League. I mean, I know we're talking about United getting up to third and how well they're playing, but Villa and Chelsea are making it easy for them. And I mean, now the possibility's opened up that the Premier League could have 7 teams in the Champions League next season. Because if Villa win the Europa League and don't finish top 5, and if Liverpool, or I guess Tottenham, we should say, but Liverpool more realistically win the Champions League and don't finish top 5, then there'd be 5 plus the Champions League winners plus the Europa League winners. I mean, that's nonsensical that you could have 7 teams in the Champions League. We've got to stop that.
Yeah, I mean, it's already kind of ridiculous, isn't it, in terms of European football and English teams. But yeah, that's a conversation for another day. That'll do for part 2. In part 3, we'll do Brighton's win at Sunderland and the 3 goalless draws. Welcome to part 3 of the Guardian Football Weekly. So Palace 0, Leeds 0. The biggest talking points here, Lucy, a missed penalty from Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Another one of those penalties that have given away when you think, what on earth are you doing with your hand, Will Hughes?
Yeah. I mean,
what's going on there? Why does this happen so often?
Yeah, it's strange. He sort of, I don't know whether he panicked in the middle, but I mean, he's not the tallest, is he? So maybe he thought nobody would notice. But yeah, and Calvert-Lewin, it's either he scores them or misses the target. He has missed the target before, but that was key, that moment. But I was just laughing this morning and watching Canvo celebrate the red card, the second yellow for Goodmanson. And I've watched him quite a lot. I've done Palace quite a lot in Europe, and he's got a right rick in him, Canvo. So he needs to be celebrating nothing. He keeps making mistakes. He's only a young player, and he keeps making mistakes. And it's like, just concentrate on your own game, mate. Because what then happened was, obviously, he's having the Mickey taken out of him. But I don't think they had a goal. They had a goal disallowed, didn't they, Palace? And then there's been this stat that they didn't have a shot on target since the red card, and I was like, well, they obviously did, but that doesn't count. But so they did have something, but it's a good in the end. Palace must rue the fact that they didn't get the win there, but they're quite comfortable. It's quite a negative environment, I think, around Selhurst Park at the moment. That I think the sooner Glasner or they both separate, the better for everyone, I think. And it sort of settled down a little bit, but I think at home, I think it's probably. I did the Zrinski away game, which was an experience in Bosnia, and it was pretty awful, the atmosphere between the manager and the fans at that stage. But it sort of settled. They got some points on the board, but another thing out of that was the second yellow card for Goodmanson, which shows that there is a higher threshold for second yellow cards, because the referee thought, oh shit, I've already given him. But it was weak. But Yeah, I think that shows everybody what that. And I felt a little bit for the referee actually, because he must have thought, "Oh God, I can't go back on this now. I've pulled the yellow card out."
Yeah. First of all, on Canva, I mean, I've seen goals celebrated with less vigour than that. It was pretty extraordinary. But yes, Thomas Bramall, we had a lot of messages saying just how bad he was in this game. And yes, we do feel for him. He clearly didn't realise that he'd already been booked. And then he also perhaps should have given Brennan Johnson a second yellow too. So yeah, I think possibly that the better vibes with Leeds, but clearly Daniel Farke was pretty disappointed with the refereeing in this game, and but they remain above the relegation zone, 15, 3 points above it. Forest 0, Fulham 0. And yeah, Forest now just really struggling to score goals, Jonathan. It's they hit the bar in this game. But yeah, that seems to be the problem. They mentioned on Match of the Day that the last time that a striker for Forest scored was on the opening day of the season.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you bring in Sean Dyche and the after effects can still be felt. I mean, I think they have picked up under Pereira, but yeah, that clearly is the issue. They got. I haven't actually seen them live for quite a while, so I'm seeing them next Sunday at Spurs. So I'm looking forward to that. But to see if Spurs can carry on as well. But it does feel. I mean, maybe I'm discounting Leeds slightly in that, but it does feel 1 from 3 to go down. Maybe it is 1 from 4 still.
And Dan, I mean, they were a bit unlucky with Ndoye not getting a penalty after being a sort of inch offside. Vitor Pereira saying he can't celebrate goals anymore.
Yeah, I thought it was a decent-ish performance for us. They did create chances, and they are just probably missing a Chris Wood to get on the end of things. Obviously, last season he scored so many goals, and he's been a huge miss with the amount of football he's missed through injury. When I tweeted that Villa had the worst functioning attack in the Premier League at the moment last night, a lot of Forest fans replied saying, "No, it does." So there's obviously a huge problem there.
Dan, Sunderland have scored 1 goal from open play in the last 8 games, so I think they've got a pretty good shout as well.
I'm going off the eye test where I feel like other teams are creating chances and Villa just everything breaks down as soon as it gets the attack. But look, I probably haven't watched loads of Forest and Sunderland recently, so it's probably a fair shout. I think Forest home games are critical right now. Like they've got to win their home games, and when they're coming away with a 0-0 draw in a game they probably should have won. Like that feels quite big in this relegation battle now. If Spurs can pull it together and beat them next week, they suddenly feel like the ones that are in the biggest danger, because I do think Leeds will do enough at Elland Road to stay up. So I think Forest's home form right now is absolutely paramount.
It's really exciting at the bottom of the table if you don't have a dog in the fight, of course. So yeah. West Ham in 18th, 29 points. Nottingham Forest just above them on 29. Tottenham in 16th on 30. And Leeds United just above them on 32. Burnley 0, Bournemouth 0. Yeah, again, not a classic. So Bournemouth unbeaten in 10, but they keep up their record of failing to beat a promoted side this season. But they do have an Oscar winner amongst their ownership. So Michael B. Jordan took home the gong for Best Actor for his role in Sinners overnight. Bournemouth are really frustrating, Lucy, aren't they? Because I think they're really close to actually being, challenging for Europe.
Yeah, it's funny because I looked at the to watch the highlights of this, obviously, as I do if I don't see any. The highlights were 13 minutes long, and I just chose not to watch the highlights that were 13 minutes long of Burnley 0, Bournemouth 0. But yeah, but I do like I do like Bournemouth, but Bournemouth, Iraola is such a good manager. I think that I don't think he enjoys having his best players, so you can't build anything, and obviously he's now a manager where he thinks, hang on a minute, I can make something of somewhere. It wouldn't surprise me if he went somewhere else where they allowed him to build and not sort of pull the rug under his feet. And you understand why Bournemouth do sell players, but if you've got a manager as good as Iraola, then I think that you've got to support him, and that's obviously how he looks at things. But yeah, it's interesting that they have so many draws. I did their game against Sunderland the other week, and I think that was the last time, Jonathan, that Sunderland scored an open play goal. Just I just think it's just so difficult for them to get any sort of momentum going. Because if they did and did well, I mean, the performance against Newcastle last season away at Newcastle Bournemouth was the best performance I've seen in a long time of an away team. And then this season they have to go again and try and build again. So it must be frustrating.
Yeah, it's out of contract at the end of the season, like Marco Silva and Oliver Glasner. So yeah, it's going to be a really interesting summer actually in terms of managers. Sunderland 0, Brighton 1. A third straight home defeat after unbeaten start at the Stadium of Light for Sunderland. Chris Rigg had a goal ruled out for offside, and then Minter scored one of the weirdest goal you'll ever see. If you asked him to do it again, he wouldn't be able to. Habib Diarra was down, and he sort of stumbled and almost squirted off his foot to deceive everyone from a tight angle. Jonathan, is a bit of complacency perhaps creeping in after hitting 40 points?
No, they're just rubbish.
They can't be. They were so good.
The fixtures fell in exactly the right order for Sunderland. They got a lot of fairly straightforward home games at the start, and I included in that Villa before they had the good patch, and they got points on the board. There was a bit of confidence, and they held things together. Then they've got a load of injuries at the minute. They're really struggling for creativity. Bertrand Traore has been a much bigger loss than I expected. They've got 2 left backs injured at the minute. So Trey Humes having to play on the left. They sold Masuaku or let him go in January. And so Humes playing on the wrong side, which means Hurtado playing at right back, and he's doing all right. But I'd rather he was in midfield. And yeah, they just have absolutely zero spark. I think a lot of the confidence is gone. I think for some players have played a bit too much or a bit weary. And sort of it's a regression to the mean that I think was always likely. It's that win at Leeds where they were pretty fortunate, to be honest. It's a good thing they've got that, because otherwise I think they might be in bother.
Tonight in the Premier League, Brentford against Wolves, so quite a big game for Brentford in terms of their push for European qualification. Chelsea women won the League Cup final, retaining their trophy, beating Manchester United by 2-0 at Ashton Gate. Lauren James got player of the match. She was excellent, scored the first goal after a bit of a gift from Manchester United, and then Aggie Beaver-Jones wrapped it up. And more on that on the Guardian Women's Football Weekly, which will be out tomorrow. Max did joke that we weren't going to mention the Europa League and Conference League last 16, so we'll just give it a little bit of a mention. Lucy, you were Forest 0, Midtjylland 1. Did you have a nice time, as Max would always ask?
Yes, and it's quite a nervy place, the City Ground, which sort of feeds into the reaction around the draw yesterday against Fulham. But yeah, they don't create many chances, and the ones that they do, they sort of fluff because they don't have Chris Wood, whose conversion rate last season was absolutely incredible, which obviously helped them score the goals that got the points that took them far away from where they are now. But if I could have put a bet on halfway through that commentary of the second half, when it was pouring down with rain and Forest weren't scoring, that Midtjylland would score, I would have done, because it was one of those going, you just knew what was going to happen. Everybody could sense that Forest are not going to put the ball in the back of the net, Midtjylland would score, and that's exactly what happens. It's going to be tough for Forest. But again, it's getting in the way of the Premier League survival, isn't it? And who would have thought you would ever say that about the Europa League? But the travelling this week may, affect them at the weekend.
Yeah, it's pretty mad. We now have teams that are battling relegation and are in Europe as well. That might become more of a regular occurrence, actually. Ollie Watkins winning a goal in Lille 0, Villa 1, but Villa won't win the Europa League, as we've just been told by Dan. 0-0 with Crystal Palace in the Conference League with AEK Larnaca as well. Let's go to any other business then. Wilson, you mentioned you're in a hotel, but there is a certain hotel chain that you will not frequent. And do tell us why.
Right, so the only reason I'm in a hotel is because I was a very late switch from the United Villa game to Liverpool Spurs. For reasons I don't need to go into, I was in Yorkshire on Saturday. Thought I'd stay up and do a Northern game. Which the Guardian accommodated, but then because we shifted so late to Liverpool Spurs, which I think was the right decision. I think Spurs were the bigger story. The trains were fully booked going back on Sunday night, so that's looking around for a hotel in Liverpool, and obviously I have no say in this. The travel department does it, and I'm in, I can't think, is it called the Atlantic Tower? In fact, I can read the history of the hotel here. It happens to be on a handy sheet on the desk.
Running a bit long, so maybe that could be for the the Patreon. If we have that.
Located in the heart of this vibrant city, our iconic hotel was originally built in 1973 and was uniquely designed to resemble the shape of a ship, a proud tribute to Liverpool's rich maritime heritage. A ship.
Yeah.
It's sort of like a slightly rounded triangle. It's quite hard to orient yourself when you come out your room. Do I go left or go right to the lift? It's sort of, you could go either. It's confusing. But anyway, this used to be a Thistle. I think it's now a Mercure. But I came here in February 2004. I'd flown in from Stuttgart, where I'd been doing a Champions League game, and there was snow, and I was late. Liverpool playing Levski in the UEFA Cup, and so I had to go straight to Anfield from the airport, and got to the hotel probably about half midnight, and they'd sold my room, and they put me in a taxi and sent me with a bottle of, I would say, insultingly bad red wine, and they sent me to St Helens, to a disgraceful hotel in St Helens. And I looked up the rack rate of the rooms. It was 140 quid less than the one I was meant to be in Liverpool. And so I said to Thistle Hotels, well, I think the very least you can do for the extra time it's taken me to have to get a cab to St Helens, this dreadful hotel you put me in, is you could give me the 140 quid. And they refused. So I've been boycotting Thistle Hotels ever since. I would encourage listeners to join me in the boycott. And I've written... over the first 5 years afterwards, I wrote to Thistle Hotels on the anniversary to explain the ongoing reasons for my boycott, and not a peep out of them. So, yeah, Thistle Hotels, I despise you, and I hope you fail.
Do you have an insultingly poor bottle of red wine every anniversary, just to have a memory of it?
I'm quite an ascetic man generally, but wine is where I let myself go. I like good wine. I'm very much a quality over quantity, so no, I will not drink bad wine.
Well, you mentioned that they're not doing so well, so this is a dish served a dish served cold, isn't it? This revenge. It's been a long time, but it's finally your boycott is coming to fruition.
I hope the fact they've had to sell the hotel to Mercure is evidence of their failure. Yes.
Yeah. And it's all down to you. Single-handedly brought them down. Well done, Wilson. Really, really proud of you. Yeah, absolutely.
I worked for a Thistle hotel in my university days.
I mean, no offence, but that doesn't surprise me.
I knew you were going to say that. It was probably around the same time.
Do you remember handing a disgruntled journalist a bottle of wine?
I did get told that I was fucking useless by Ozzy Osbourne when I worked for that hotel.
What a privilege.
So similar vibe.
That's wonderful. A lot of people would pay to have that from Ozzy Osbourne, especially
it was quite satisfying.
Persuasion. Yeah, that's wonderful. Right, before we go, an update from Max and Barry in Texas. Max, Barry, and producer Joel having a great time, it looks like. The live show will probably have happened by the time you're hearing this, but rest assured, they're working tirelessly on serious football journalism. We've had photos and videos of them on a guided duck tour on a boat and at an Alanis Morissette concert, singing along to Ironic. For those with nervous disposition, please turn off now.